This is Newcap News with Nerman Esau.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. The border city has been blanketed by snow. Now it's the first snowfall we've seen in months, and with the slush came treacherous road conditions in and around the region. Now this was the scene today on 44th Street. The wet snow started earlier this morning, leaving a slushy mess in the streets. Now the city says it had sanding trucks out this morning, but they were called off when they didn't notice icy conditions.
But we are going to be dispatching sanders out this evening as temperatures start to drop again to monitor the situation.
Because this is the first snowfall in quite some time, the city is reminding motorists to take extra precautions.
Be aware that road conditions can change, and just because they're not icy right now doesn't mean that that those conditions can't change, and just give yourself a little bit of extra time to get where you're going today.
If you would like to report an icy patch of road in your community, you can call the Public Works at 306-825-4581. Now we will have more on the snowfall and what you can expect tomorrow a little later in the cast. Meanwhile, RCMP say highways in and around Lloydminster are in bad condition. They say roads are icy and that the slush is building on lanes. Earlier today, police shut down the eastbound lane on Highway 16, about 10 kilometers east of Maidstone, due to a semi sliding into the side of the bridge. A local woman is working towards providing respite services for local families who are providing for a child living with disabilities. The first Blue Moon Festival was held today to raise funds for the Snowflake House Respite Foundation. Now, the goal of the Snowflake House is to give parents or family members of a disabled child a chance to take a break from the stress, which is critical to their relationships.
Respite is really just giving families a break, and sometimes certain families have a hard time getting a break, and so we're trying to fill that need.
The festival was a great opportunity for families to enjoy each other's company with games, music, and a silent auction, with all proceeds going to the Snowflake House to jumpstart programming for the new year. And with this big snowfall, cuddling up on the couch will be one of the more preferred activities this weekend. And if you're looking to add some extra warmth to your night in, the Lloydminster Quilt Guild has got a few ideas for you. The Guild displayed their best creations, from cuddly quilts to artistic wall hangings. The Everything Quilted Quilt Show had it all. Elise Cox has more.
There's more than meets the eye with quilting. It's no longer just your grandmother's bed throw, and the Everything Quilted Quilt Show prides itself on showcasing that.
Anything that you can put a needle through and quilt is what we consider quilting. So that's the reason it's everything quilted, because you will find every bit of that in this show.
They're breaking the stereotype, even quilting things together like snowmen.
I think people think of quilting as a big homemade quilt that your grandma made that you have on your bed and you snuggle to watch movies with. But quilting can be so much more than that. It is the big quilts, it is the ones that you snuggle with, but it's also wall art, and it's hangings, and it's table runners and tablecloths.
The intricate work that goes into creating a quilt is definitely art, and quilters know it better than anyone. Joan Bexfield estimates she spent over 500 hours making hers.
The first step was to make over 400 yo-yos. So this quilt has 409 5-inch circle yo-yos that were all hand-stitched. It took 2.5 hours to make 14 yo-yos by hand.
Which makes examining these quilts even more remarkable.
With quilting, there's a lot of precise work in quilting. The cutting is very important. The piecing is very important, and then you have your end result, and that's your satisfaction.
And it's more popular than most people would imagine. Even the community is looking to satisfy their creative bug with quilting.
I'm a teacher, and just recently I asked the kids at my middle school if they would like to learn how to quilt, and we had 40 kids come out to learn. So I think we underestimate how much it is an interest factor, and who doesn't love a quilt? Who wouldn't want to wrap up in a quilt on the couch or have one to put over your bed?
The Guild is also looking to give back to the community. They've created a quilt to raffle off, with all proceeds going to the SPCA.
We have donated quilts every year that we have done a quilt show, and because we want to give back to our community as much as our community gives to us.
So whether it's wrapped around you for a cold winter evening or hung up on your wall as a work of art, quilts aren't just patches of fabric pieced together, but a passion shared by many in our community. Elise Cox, Newcap News.
And Elise joins me on the desk, and you actually had a good time. You went to the quilt show today. You got to check it out.
Yeah, very interesting to see. And I just wanted to add that it's going to be going on tomorrow as well until 4 o'clock, and they have tons of stuff going on over there. And they're also, the SPCA quilt is being, they're pulling the winning ticket, so that'll be a fun.
It was a really nice quilt. I was looking at that. It was really nice. But we are going to go back to our top story, which of course is the snow that hit our region. And so on Facebook, we called out to our viewers to send in some of the photos they are of having fun in the snow. So this is our first one. This is Jacy Lloyd from Cut Knife. She sent in a picture of her snowboarding, showing off some tricks. So
a daredevil.
Yeah, never gone snowboarding, probably never will. Our next picture, this is adorable. It's of Jax and Danica, and they made an entire snowman family. So
that is how much snow we got, that they can make a whole family of snowmen.
That's so cute. And our last picture, this is Benjamin Kendel's dog, Leia, having some fun in the snow.
And Benjamin did tell us that she is named after Princess Leia.
Yes, so very adorable.
Very cute.
Matt Schumont joined me on the desk for a look at sports. Bobcats on a 4-game road trip, and now they are back in the city.
Yeah, they wrapped up the road trip. They finished with a 1-2-1 record against Spruce Grove last night, but they're back at home for the first time in 2 weeks. The Orange and Black host the Canmore Eagles this evening. The Cats were in Canmore during the road trip and dropped a 4-1 decision. As for the Eagles, are coming off a 5-2 win over the Bonnyville Pontiacs Friday night. Puck drop for tonight's game is set for 7:30. The Bandits are back in action tonight after coming off a convincing 6-1 win last night in Vegreville as they head to Wainwright tonight to take on the undefeated Bisons. The Bandits offense has been on fire right out of the gate as they lead the league in scoring with 39 goals in 6 games. Puck drop for this one is also set for 7:30. The Baker Hughes Bobcats are coming off a pair of ties last weekend and will look for their 3rd win of the season as they hit the road for a pair of games starting tonight as they take on the CAC Greg Distributors. And the Rohan Rage will look to get back into the win column as their game with the CRAA Gold is going on right now at the Civic. After this, they will head to Ledoux tomorrow afternoon. All right, the undefeated Lloydminster Universal Heat hosting the Camrose Vikings this afternoon. It's the visitors who nearly score first. Puck bounces off the boards behind the Heat goalie, but it stays out. Other way, Kobe Moore rings it off the post. More Heat moments later. Captain Cale Clegg dances in, can't get a shot, but nearly buries the rebound, still scoreless. Shorthanded, Moore finds some space, passes to Kobe Walker alone, but can't convert off the board. 7 minutes left in the first. Clegg rips one off the bar. It's coming up, and then the same shift. Clegg drops for Mason Shaw, who drops for Cole Johnson, who waits, spins, and fires to make it 1-0 for the Heat. 5 minutes later, Tristan Petrie puts one on from the point, deflected in by Johnson. But as the period runs out, Jansen Leslie losing it on a Viking who runs into Austin McGrath, just going berserk. He, of course, would get a penalty. Heat on the penalty kill to start the second. They get a 2-on-1. Leading scorer Shaw makes it 3-0. Pressure continues. Walker passes to Moore. His backhand goes off a defender and in. Lucky goal, but of course he'll take it nonetheless. 2 minutes later, double twos. Johnson snipes his 3rd of the game. He'd add another goal to give him the 4th on the day, his 16th of the year. That's 2nd best in the league. The Heat run over the Vikings 6-0 to stay undefeated this year. McGrath earns the shutout. In college soccer this afternoon, the snow proved to be a bit of a factor as the Rustlers and Lethbridge Kodiak's women's team came off VLA Field with a 0-0 draw. And just wrapping up for the men, they were looking for their 5th win. It was back and forth action in the second half, but in the end, the Kodiaks come out on top with a 2-1 win. Both Rustlers teams are back in action tomorrow as they host the Medicine Hat Rattlers. And that's all the time that I have for sports right now. Stay tuned. Elise has your weather forecast next. After failing to get a bye, the Holy Rosary Raiders were now faced to play a quarterfinal game last night against the Bonnyville Voyageurs. The Raiders took the only meeting between these two teams back in Week 3, 58-20. In the first, it's the Bray Josu highlight reel off the punt return. He dodges a couple tackles, finds a hole and goes for a run before getting tackled at midfield. Then on the handoff, bounces off a tackle, makes a defender miss for a 15-yard run. Jacy would punch it in a few plays later, 7-0 for the Raiders. Later in the quarter, Colton Hippie drops back and goes to Chris Brett for the major. Holy opens a 14-point lead. In the second, Bonnyville in the red zone with a chance to cut the lead in half, but Jared Churko was picked off by Donovan Granum, who has nothing but the nightlife in front of him for a 112-yard pick six. It's now 20-0. Everything was going the Raiders' way in the first half. The punt returner can't get a hold of the ball. It's live, and Matt Chapelski will recover it for the black and silver. It would lead to this. Jacy finding the end zone for a second TD of the half. Raiders would take a 40-7 lead into the break. Touchdowns would be exchanged in the second half as the Raiders are now off to the semifinals with the convincing 53-21 win. After the game, head coach Vince Oreo talked about his team starting to find some momentum.
I mean, we ran the ball well again. Colton was protected. He had lots of time to throw the ball, so our O-line's doing a really good job. I'm happy with the push our D-line's getting. We're finally starting to, make teams, or starting to put some pressure on some offenses and making plays happen.
We came out, we wanted to make a show under the lights. We came out, we beat them last time, but we had a bad game last week, so we came out flying and we make up for it from last week.